What up, everybody? It's a Fight Game podcast live from Las Vegas in our very glorious studio here. Actually, Airbnb that we turned into a studio. Jeremy Finestone is my co-host, the also co-host of Speaking of Strong Style in the Fight Game Media Network. Probably not going to talk a lot about New Japan this weekend, but he's ready. He watched his NXT. He's caught up on his WWE. And then, of course, from the ringer, Wrestling Worldwide, Ben Cruz. What is up, my friend?
What is up, guys? Double G, I just want you to know, if there's ever any doubt that I love you, doing this pod the night after WaleMania is all the proof you need. And now it's on camera.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if we ever have a fight or an argument, just point back to this and be like, we're good.
I appreciate it so much, and so much so that when I realized when we were doing it and when I asked you and then I replied, I was like, wait a second here. Did I just book you for the morning after WrestleMania?
So, yeah, to be honest, when you asked, I was like, yeah, good. And then, because I was going off of the brain of our interview schedule. I was like, yeah, we don't have any interviews. And then completely overlooked the fact that WrestleMania was the night before. So, Jeremy, when I tell you, man, like, I had this moment of, should I ask him to, like, push it back? But he's the one who said it first, and then we're good. But we're here. Look at this. I'm ready, man. I'm feeling energized. More surprisingly than I thought it would.
Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
I don't know about all that.
Okay.
But I'm awake and ready to pod. So
alive and breathing.
Yeah. For Vegas, that's in the upper 50%. Sure. So I'll take it.
So we were talking last night at WrestleMania, kind of like the vibe of that show, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And it was why that was like the main thing I wanted to do. I was at the first one.
Yep.
And sounds like it might be the last one. I don't know. Wale might. Could he come out of retirement? I don't know.
Is it a work?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
I've been trying to get info from Kaz for the last couple of hours, so I don't know. Honestly, like it could be a work. It could be real. It's a lot to put that show on.
Yeah,
just kind of knowing what Kaz goes through to help Wale put that show on.
Tell people who Kaz is.
Kaz
by the way.
is Kazim Famuide. He's one of the he co-hosts the Masked Man show for us on the Ring of Wrestling show, and he is one of, if not one of the brain children behind WrestleMania. So it's obviously Wale's
former WWE writer.
Former WWE writer. Used to work for them, but he is in charge of putting that whole thing together. Obviously, he has a lot of help to do it, but he is tasked with putting that thing on every year, and it's a Herculean task, man. And
he's an impressive dude.
Oh, he's that guy, man.
Yeah, I was very impressed because he also emceed the thing with
he hosted
Big Swole.
Yeah.
Big Swole has crazy charisma. Like where she's got to be on TV cutting promos on people. She was amazing last night.
So good. I think she hosted last year too, I want to say, but she's been doing this with them for a minute now. She's great. So I don't know what they're doing.
I was so impressed. Because from a wrestling standpoint, I saw her in AEW, and I know she maybe didn't have the most gracious exit, but I'm like, oh my gosh, I'd never seen her talk like this before. She was incredible.
And the way she was vamping when they were just kind of stalling for was it Naomi was the first
guest? She had to do crowd work.
The crowd work was it was TikTok stand-up comedian-esque.
It was good. It was great. I was impressed. So Jeremy and I were talking about this earlier today because we've been to a bunch of WrestleManias. Now, WrestleMania weekend is a lot different these days than it has been in the past. Yeah. It's all WWE, and a lot of the side shows there's not as WrestleMania weekend going back 7 or 8 years. WrestleMania was like the destination, but really the cool stuff was kind of the shoulder shows, and you get to see Will Ospreay wrestle 7 times, and you get to see some people who wrestle in Japan who you never get to see live. It's lesser of that today because of the dominant 2 U.S. brands in WWE and AEW. They got all the great talent. So the sideshow stuff is a little bit lesser, so it's a little bit different. But compared to previous times that you've covered WrestleMania for The Ringer, what are the vibes like? If you could compare this weekend versus like last year, you were sending me texts and I just had crazy FOMO all weekend long. But like compare Vegas to some of the other times that you've done this.
Man, it feels It's interesting because it feels more for everything. It's so compressed. It feels a little bit more spread out, and it may be because. So last year we stayed around the corner from where WWE World and the talent were staying. So it was literally we just kept walking everywhere, right? And this is a very like everything's on the strip.
Yeah.
I was talking to somebody about this at the press junket before I came here, and people are like, oh, every time they come to Vegas, you can tell who's a rookie or who's newer when they're like, oh, I'm just gonna walk that on the strip.
Nope.
And then an hour later, you're like, I thought this was a mile. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So in that light, it feels more spread out, and I don't know. I think I'll have more of a feel for it today because I think people are just coming in now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we've obviously been here. We got in on Wednesday, so it was. I feel like we were still on the ramp up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to. I guess when you ask that question, I associate it with like the actual build to Mania, so I'm like, which has been
hasn't been as good as last couple
as
years.
Last there was just a palpable energy, right? You're like, Cody's gonna finish the story, like that was what it was centered around, and obviously the build has been fine to mediocre. So like I feel like that energy's kind of translated. I feel like after tonight, after they do SmackDown, I think it'll shoot from what energy wise from like a 4 to maybe like an 8, and then we'll kind of be on that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to have that question again tomorrow. So Jeremy, what was your favorite WrestleMania that you went to? Which weekend? And also kind of like compare it to the feeling for this year so far.
So I've been to 4 WrestleManias, I believe. I went to 21 in Los Angeles, which was, the rise of John Cena and Batista, and, kind of bookending it with this year. And then I went to 28, which was The Rock and Cena. I went to 30, which was the
Daniel Bryan,
CM Punk leaving, that whole thing. 31 and 32, Dallas and San Jose. They all had something really special about them. I think I would have to go with 31 being my favorite, just because it was local for the San Jose area.
First WaleMania as well.
First WaleMania, that's right.
There was a number of indie talents that like made their name that year. Like there were people in New Orleans and New York the couple years before, but it felt like that generation of wrestlers. I saw Tommy End there that time. Drew McIntyre was away from WWE at the time. There were a couple other people. That one felt like a big wrestling world. Like everything was coming together. And then at the very end, when everyone was kind of not into Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns, and we all wanted that Seth Rollins cash in Money in the Bank, and it actually happened, it just felt like everything was being delivered to us on a silver platter for WrestleMania weekend. And there's a lot of other events that have, delivered, but that was the one that for me has been the special one.
Yeah, I think going back to like 34, I think that was in New Orleans, and just the shoulder shows and stuff around that. That felt like, and this is pre-AEW, obviously.
Yeah.
And that felt like, we're seeing the people who, if they get an opportunity, they're going to blow up.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of cool. But this is different because WWE is so dominant.
Yeah.
And so there's less of that because a lot of the top talent is on both rosters. So there's not a lot. Though I heard, I didn't get to watch it, but it sounds like a lot of people like the Bloodsport show from last night. So talking about WaleMania, as you know, that's the one where I'm just like, I got to get back.
Yeah.
I've been telling you that for like the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I had such a blast.
Yeah.
I actually left a little bit early. I left before Wale performed.
Yeah.
He was good.
Oh, it was good.
Yeah.
I got on stage for that one.
No, did you?
It was surreal. I don't know how I ended up there. Just if you walk with confidence sometimes, you'll end up in places. So no, it was great. It was phenomenal.
So the way that it, because I went to the early ones and now to see this one, the way that it's different is the first one, and I would say the second and maybe even the fourth, the show was kind of built around the idea that you're going to have wrestling podcasters interview former wrestlers, current wrestlers. Jim Ross was at a lot of them. Obviously, Dave was at the first and the second, and I think the fourth one as well as a guest. And then, you'd bring in Scott Hall, Rey Mysterio.
Yep.
And so it was like, oh, we're going to interview these wrestlers, grab your drinks, sit at the table, chill. This was more interspersing a DJ who was fantastic, especially for my age of music, my age of hip-hop. And then interspersing that with, we're not going to do like a podcast-esque thing. We're going to do kind of like a crowd thing. We're going to get Naomi up here.
Yep. Jay
Kazim,
was up there,
and Shoemaker.
Yep.
We're asking questions that were a little bit looser than like a normal podcast setting, and playing with the crowd who's obviously there, loving Naomi, loving Jay, so loving Naomi so much that she was still trying to play heel, and she was doing a good job at it. But she's in character, and the crowd's just loving her. She had the blades on her dress.
Yep.
Don't get close, she might cut you kind of mentality.
The caution jacket.
And then Jay comes out, and they have who's the dance troupe that did
They're a viral dance. I forgot what their name is, but if you haven't, for those who are listening, if you haven't seen them, they dance to wrestling entrance songs, and it's phenomenal. They crushed it last night, and Jay walked on stage with them when his song came on with them, and it was so sick.
I actually put a little YouTube short out about that, because I was like, to see and just people who don't know WaleMania, the crowd is it's a hip hop crowd. It's a more diverse crowd than a normal wrestling crowd. So you can imagine Jey Uso is at the top of everybody's list as far as what they want to see this weekend. And we'll get back to that question at the end of this show. But he was so beloved, and people watch the entrances on Raw, and they see how long they play the song over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And like if you see it on Raw, like every week, you're like, okay, we know like this crowd loves him. But to be there in person, and to see the crowd react to him was pretty special.
Yeah, I also enjoyed Kaz finally having a heart-to-heart with everyone, but that we need to yeet on beat.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Michael Cole felt something.
Yeah.
He didn't know why,
I think
but
that
he
was
felt
directed
something.
at Cole, maybe not actually, but it was great to just kind of have everyone, walk through that, just with arms up and just together. I think everyone learned something. You know what I mean? So was it a show? Yes. Were there wrestlers there? Absolutely. But it was also a learning experience.
Yeah. Well, he had another great comment, which was, WaleMania is about everybody.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
And he said, there's like one sort of unspoken rule at WaleMania, which is no tribalism.
Yeah.
He's like, AEW is cool, WWE is cool, pro wrestling is cool.
Yep.
And if you like one more than the other, keep that ish to yourself was kind of the vibe. And, and like that, if it was only so easy, like,
Yeah, I love how that night is more of a celebration about being a wrestling fan.
Yeah.
Right? Because, I mean, as mainstream as it's gotten, within the last couple of years, and, obviously AEW coming into the fold and adding, like, a legitimate second company in the U.S. to kind of, like, fortify that the base here, there's still a little bit of that stigma that comes with being a wrestling fan, right? I'm sure you guys deal with this too. Is just when you kind of talk about what you do for work, or like why there's like times where my family, like, I can't go to this because I have to watch it. Like, you still watch wrestling? It's that tone, right? And that WaleMania is a place where you just understand that it's not a bunch of marks. Right?
Yeah,
I'm sure there are
some
in there, but there's just people who genuinely love wrestling and love the culture of it too,
and aren't embarrassed by it.
And they're not, right? Again, they're paying money to go to an extra event that isn't a wrestling show. Yeah. Right? Like that's nuts. And it's awesome.
Bill Simmons, who runs your company, he always says they should make me the sports czar, right?
Yeah.
When when we need a ruling on something that happens in sports, come to me. I'll help make that. I think Kaz should be the wrestling czar.
Oh, there would be no one better.
Yeah,
than
it was awesome. So shout out to all the people that made that happen. I had a blast, and
I saw what you put up there all last night. I'm like, yeah, I'm a little jealous.
It was a great time. It was the 10th one, which is so you were at the first 4, you were saying?
I was 3 out of the first 4. Yeah,
I've only been to the last 3, and so it's wild to think about. You saw the early evolution. I've seen like the latter end of it, and again, 10 years of doing this is nuts. And for it to be such a staple of this weekend, right? You're talking about all like the side stuff and the extra things that events that were centered around Mania. This is now the event.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm not just saying
it's
that
like the kickoff.
Exactly. That's what Kaz always frames it as. And not to gas him up or Wale, but it's just really, it started to feel like WrestleMania weekend when I got back to my hotel last night. Also just sleep deprived, but you know what I mean. It was it's a truly a kickoff party, which is incredible.
So I want to do a couple more moments from last night, and then we'll move on. We'll do our WrestleMania predictions for the big matches, and then we'll do the end thing. I have a question for both of you. Jeff Hardy was the guest of honor.
Yeah.
Of all people.
Yeah.
But he does have a connection because of his artistic side with the music. And I think, it's kind of interesting because in a different year or in a different couple of pocket of years, he may not have been the guest of honor because he's made some mistakes and people, were pretty upset. But he's kind of come full circle and he's still doing it. He's still doing his thing. And I thought that was a nice moment. And it was funny because Kaz said, like he was trying to say that, predominantly ethnic audience, and Jeff Hardy is not. He said he's a white dude.
He's the first white guest of honor.
And Kaz was trying to say, who is on his list of like people who could be on the Jeff Hardy things, like who's the skateboarder, Tony Hawk? He's like Tony Hawk. And then he was trying to think of a second one. And he's like, Shorty from Paramore, who I love, by the way. She's amazing. And I thought that was funny. But, yeah, Jeff Hardy was there. And he brought out, or you guys brought out, but he connected because Chris Bay, who is someone who's close to you.
Yeah, no, I knew a lot of stuff that was going to happen at the show. I did not know Chris was going to be there. And Chris was my first wrestling interview that I did kind of when I started doing wrestling podcasts, and we've just always been cool ever since. I was able to, so that moment you're talking about specifically was incredible. Just see him walk out there and the crowd show him some. He's obviously been getting a lot of love lately, and rightfully so. But I was able to, I saw him upstairs backstage or near backstage, and I was able to just give him a big hug and tell him, it was great to see him. Yeah. And thank you for everything. And, just always rooting for him. You know what I mean? But it was such an incredible moment. Because, again, I've seen all the online stuff. They had that benefit show for him. Was it a couple weeks ago? And for him to be there last night and to see that love in person was just fantastic. And he's I can't wait for the bounce back in his recovery.
By the way, I don't know if you're uncomfortable with this, but I'm like trying to figure out, like, I don't hold my mic when I do my mic kind of comes down like from a thing. Yeah. And so I'm trying to figure out, because, Kaz last night, he was holding the mic like a rapper. Yeah. Like you're not supposed to cuff the mic because it kind of takes away from the everything. So he's like cuffing it. I was like, he looks so cool cuffing the mic like the Method Man. And I'm like, it looks dumb if we're doing this and I'm sitting down. So I'm trying to figure out what's the right placement for my fingers holding the mic.
CM Punk promo on Raw where he had the WWE box and he just throws it off. And he's like, then grabbed it by the throat.
Yeah, I was thinking about going full Xavier Woods and just holding it.
There you go.
But it's weird, or like full Mr. Kennedy.
Yeah.
Like this.
And then I guess almost went on stage. That's when I didn't leave because of him, but as I was walking out, I heard that he was coming on stage. But I saw him.
Me and Miles, our friend Miles, took a picture with him last night.
No way.
Yeah, because he came up to where we all were, and again, he was just taking pictures with everybody. The thing with Omos is I saw him at the hotel like hours earlier, and again, this dude hasn't been on TV in a minute, right? He gets stopped for pictures all the time. Right? He's legitimately 7'3".
He's a giant.
The picture that Miles and I took, I look insane just because of how he's literally 2 feet taller.
Okay, but
But he
who
hasn't been benched, right?
No, he's still around. Yeah,
he's probably gonna work tonight. They got the Andre
hope so.
Battle Royal.
he might be. Yeah.
Who was more impressive of the photo that you took, he or Jade?
I do have a picture with Jade Cargill. Well, so I've met Omos before. I hadn't met Jade in person until Wednesday when we did the interview with her. So it was probably Jade. Just because, like, again, you see her on TV doing her thing, and then to see her in person, it's very striking, right?
Does she carry herself the same way that you think she carries herself? Like, poised and just very articulate and...
Yes.
Okay.
Very much so. And you can just feel the kind of the star power, like, emanating off of her. Like, again, we did a couple of our interviews on Wednesday, just kind of back to back to back, and then we were wrapping up with, I think, Braun Breaker, and she was next. And when she walked in we were going a little over with Braun. She walked in the room, and like you could just everyone's head like on the production side.
Yeah.
Like Kaz, and she was doing the thing, but all of us turned, and you just like felt her come in.
It's like one of those she's somebody.
Yeah, exactly.
Moments.
And obviously, like we know who she is, but it's just like for anyone who a casual fan, like you just kind of understand like why she is
Star
being
power,
placed.
real.
Yeah, why she's being placed the way that she is. Absolutely.
All right, before we get to our predictions here, you guys did a bunch of interviews on Wednesday.
Yeah.
And some of them aren't even published. You don't have to give away content, but I did see you guys did post photos of Punk.
So that dropped this morning.
Okay, so that's out.
Yeah.
Any nuggets?
There's a lot.
Usually is with that guy.
TMZ picked some stuff up.
No way.
I'll say this: my phone is almost dead, and it was fully charged this morning.
And it's just been blown up.
Yeah, it was. So I was trying to like be in the moment of that interview.
Yeah.
And at some point, I turned my work brain off, and I just started listening as like a wrestling fan. And I've heard a lot of Punk interviews.
Yeah.
Right. It was when I turned on my wrestling fan brain, it was like, this is good. Like, this is one of the best interviews I've heard from Punk ever. And
you think it's because of Kazim and David,
the way
or
Kaz
Shoemaker? Sorry,
Kaz and Shoemaker and Brian, who did the interview, were the way that they had a conversation with him, right? And I get it, Punk can talk all day, but it wasn't like a gotcha interview, right? Like that's just not how Kaz and Shoemaker and Brian operate. But it's like they got it. They engaged him.
Open up.
They engaged him in a conversation,
and he
engaged back.
There are some difficult topics. Like, this stuff is out there, so we're not breaking any news. But Triple H, very defensive on the fandom, and maybe kind of what you said, the mediocre build. That's kind of the consensus, and he's probably. He didn't have this. He was getting so many flowers for these last 2 years, and deservedly so, because they turned the creative around, and a lot of it is him.
Yep.
And this year, not as much. And so I would imagine he's a competitive guy. He's gonna, he's probably has his thoughts on things. But so you had the Triple H stuff. You had the Roman and Vanity Fair, those beefcake photos, and him shouting out, why he voted for Trump. You had John Cena's comments from this morning about Vince McMahon. Did you see those?
I haven't seen him yet.
He says he's just gonna undeniably love Vince no matter what. Like, that's just his friend.
All right.
So that's out there.
Great.
And so Punk kind of sits on the other side. And I don't think it's defiantly sitting on the other side, but he's not going to hide his views if they differ from other wrestlers in that company, or from the company's general way. Nick Khan was with your boss, Bill Simmons, and he was talking about why he thought Trump won. So, I know a lot of people, whenever I get on this topic or whenever it becomes a topic and they go, oh, politics and wrestling. Like, why are you I'm not bringing this up.
No.
Like, this is news based on
Yeah.
the company and the wrestlers. So to see Punk go, this is what I think, even if it differs from what everyone else thinks, this is who I am.
Yeah, no, he was not scared at all and didn't shy away from anything. And again, please go listen to it, because I need to know if I was just being a mark or like being biased because it was, again, Shoemaker and Kaz, but it was just a legitimately good conversation, a legitimately good interview. And again, they did a lot of interviews over the last couple of days.
What other one was kind of, you think, the best, second best?
This may shock you. Ludwig Kaiser.
Wow.
That dude, because initially when they offered him up to us, I was like, he's not on the card, right? So but I met him. I interviewed him on the red carpet at Raw at the Netflix debut, and like he was with Tiffany, and I interviewed both of them at the same time. I got a glimpse of like the charisma that he has. So like I had a short snippet of it, and when he came in to do our interview, like that dude just controlled. He's this charisma and this control of the room that is just like, once they give this dude the ball, it might be game over.
That's good to hear, because he wouldn't be one that you would think.
Yeah.
Or if I guessed, of all the people that you interviewed who would be good, I wouldn't have guessed him.
No, I wasn't that shocked at how, because I kind of knew, but what solidified it for me was after we had done for the day, everyone kind of looked around and was like, Kaiser was dope, right? We were looking at each other, and that was amazing.
I think it's really interesting. Maybe like 6 years ago, there was a show, an NXT show in San Jose.
Yeah.
And Adam Cole, Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa, Malachi Black, they were on it. There was a meat match between Lars Sullivan and Keith Lee.
I was at that show.
Yeah.
I remember this. Yeah.
And Ludwig Kaiser was there, but he was still as Marcel Barthel.
Marcel Barthel, yeah.
And you would watch him, and he was like, you'd think, it's just a guy. But you couldn't not look at him. And
yeah.
You couldn't not notice him. And there was something, an X factor about him that he had all the way back then. That he's managed to survive and potentially thrive in WWE and above almost everybody else on that NXT card that we saw.
Yeah.
In San Jose. And nobody would have guessed it, but now nobody would actually be surprised.
Right, and he's such a convincing, like, jackass character on screen. I'm kind of preparing for the babyface run, which I think is going to be very, very good. Because again, the dude that we talked to and the dude that we saw and on Wednesday, that I think that show's coming out probably later today or maybe tomorrow. But again, if they put a championship on him, or if once he's cutting babyface promos, I think there's just going to be the kids are going to gravitate towards him. He told us when he was a face on the indies in Europe, and it was always the kids and the women that gravitated toward him. I'm like, it's gonna happen again.
Oh yeah.
Once they give him that.
Wait, but did he deny being in Charlotte's DMs?
Kaz asked him and Charlotte that. He said, "Let me see your DMs." Definitely. That was insane. That promo, by the way, he laughed it off. He definitely was not. You know what I mean? Like, what are we doing here? That was a nuts thing to say, but also one of the funniest things that Charlotte's ever done.
Yeah,
it was so funny.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about some of these matches.
Yeah.
We're just gonna talk about the 4 title matches here, because Jeremy and I will do a little bit more stuff tomorrow. But I just want to get your thoughts.
Yeah.
Cody and Cena. I mean, we think Cena's got to win this match, right, for this whole thing to sort of make sense. But you know what my fear is? We're going to get a lot of the kind of what we've been getting from him. Same promo. But it does create a way for him to do his greatest hits matches coming out of Mania, whether it's with Punk or, Orton,
yeah.
Roman.
Yep.
And before he does lose it. So are we thinking Cena?
I think it's Cena. I mean, I also think it's a refresher for Cody. You know what I mean? Like, I think Cody's had a great run as champion over the last year.
One of the best runs ever if you're talking business.
Yeah, exactly. It might be time to hit the reset button. Just a small reset. Put him back on the chase. And also, Kaz made this point yesterday. I was talking to him. The dude needs a break. Like,
oh yeah.
Can we get this dude a vacation real quick? Like, my guy is. He's running the Cena schedule.
He won't ask for the break.
Exactly.
Because he loves this. This is in his veins, in his blood.
Yeah.
But
QB1.
to sort of force it and go, okay, we're going to do it again. But, you also have to see who else can run, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, Cody's going to be around for a long time.
Exactly.
He's still, is he even 40 yet? I don't know if he's 40 yet.
I don't think so.
So, what do you think, Jeremy? Is there any way you can talk or you can have – there's no Cody talking point here.
No, I mean, you have both Dwayne, The Rock Johnson, and Cena orbiting this match.
Is Dwayne The Rock Johnson orbiting this?
I think he is.
Travis Scott is, for sure.
Okay. Okay, because and here's why I say this. I mentioned this to Dave yesterday. The only promotion The Rock has done of late is staring at a Rubik's Cube in a New Japan shirt.
Right.
That's the only thing that he's done.
Mm-hmm.
So is he orbiting or is he going to – like, because if he was around even cutting those TikTok promos or YouTube promos that he was cutting last year, it would help the build and maybe we wouldn't feel this way. But he is erased from the whole thing, it seems.
I don't know about that because you had the Elimination Chamber and the entire narrative was done at The Rock's direction. It was not Cena making this decision on his own.
Okay, but he's not mentioned him.
I think it's
Cody's
irrelevant.
mentioned him once
briefly.
I think.
Yeah,
I think it's all irrelevant. I think if you have a WrestleMania Night 2 and The Rock has been introduced into the narrative and he's not there, it is going to be a problem for a lot of fans.
I think so. I mean, I think he shows up,
yes.
But I also think that if he was around, maybe we wouldn't feel that the build has been off.
I'm not necessarily sure we're going to get anything other than like 15 good minutes of Cena in this match, and then there's going to be 25 minutes of The Rock, Travis Scott, all these different things in which we're getting like a narrative story match and like people on the ground for 2 or 3 minutes and people just kind of, doing their little act of that part of the thing. We're not getting like a masterpiece match out of here.
No, it's going to be story.
It's all story, and it's all to hide the fact that Cena hasn't been training that much. Like, he's been acting. He's going to do his signature spot. It's going to be all the things that the 5-knuckle shuffle and a heel version. But I don't see a world where Cena isn't walking out with the world title at the end of WrestleMania.
Okay, now you're the New Japan guy.
Mm-hmm.
There's somebody who just left New Japan.
Naito showing up?
Okay, there's a couple people who just left New Japan. Someone who I know, my normal co-host for this show, John LaRocca, his kids call this man Uncle Jeff.
Yes, sir.
That's how close Jeff Cobb is to the Fight Game podcast.
The degrees of separation are shallow.
Do you think there's a chance that he debuts at WrestleMania?
I think there's a chance. I think it's a lot more likely that he is the Raw surprise kind of new addition, X Factor, kind of the way Cesaro won that match after Mania. You introduce a new X Factor. I love Jeff. I think Jeff is a fantastic wrestler. I don't see a world in which a debut at WrestleMania is going to be the best option for him.
So, you know how sometimes we get an idea and it becomes the way that we need to see this happen? Like this is the stuff that Triple H hates, by the way. I envision Rock coming out, Travis Scott coming out, who Cody has backup, right? If that backup is Austin, it would be amazing. Like this building would go crazy, and Austin can send Rock and Travis Scott to the back. And then now it feels fair, one-on-one, Cena and Cody, and who comes through the crowd but Jeff Cobb to ruin that whole scenario for Cody. Now, I don't know if that's going to happen. I don't know how they envision Jeff Cobb coming in. Jeff Cobb could come in as a babyface and unrelated to the story overall. And I may be playing into the Rock's mind games of the Rubik's Cube a little bit as well. But Dave had a great point. If he's not showing up at Mania, why do you have to pull him off of Dontaku?
Because he's going to show up before Dontaku.
But is it that important?
It's important to WWE, but it's not.
Or is it maybe it's just important to the power game of?
Yeah, I think it's all, flexing your muscle, saying like, this is when we decided that we were going to need you, and we decided a while ago, but today's the day we're going to tell you.
Yeah.
That felt more like a reality to me than WWE woke up one day and said, "Oh no, we're going to need this guy sooner rather than later." I feel like they knew, and then they decided today was the day that they were going to let everybody know that they knew, so that other promotions wouldn't tip away their plans for these shows.
All right, we all assume Jay's winning too, right?
Yes.
That's to me that's almost more important than John Cena winning.
I was looking at betting odds for Jay Gunther because I'm a psycho, and again, if you're betting on wrestling, where's the camera?
Yeah.
Please don't do that. But there are odds out there. I promise. He's a minus 700.
Okay.
To win. Strangely enough, he's not the biggest favorite. Going to Drew McIntyre actually is, but minus 700. If they make this dude 0-4 against Gunther, that's I think he's cooked.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
I think everything that you've built. I love Jay. I think he was there last night. Again, this dude his connection to the audience it's very Jeff Hardy-esque.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about Jeff Hardy earlier, and like he's also showing up at so you know how they have this WrestleMania After Dark party.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be the guest at this on Saturday.
He's winning.
Is this dude going to show up to this
face.
after party? After just eating
I
Gunther
lost an
powerbombs?
election and I'm going to show up at party.
Exactly. So he's going to win.
Yeah.
I think it's. I guess there's a world where Gunther retains and then maybe you run Roman or whoever at him, but Jay's got it. At least you got to try it and just see what happens.
I think it's the moment that kicks off the entire show.
Yeah. Night one.
And
tomorrow night.
If you want to get that fan base going, like knowing that there's a possibility that at the end of night 2, the babyface loses.
Yeah.
A good way to get the show started is Jay winning.
You knew a year and some change ago when Jay came to the Raw brand that they were interested in pushing him to some extent. I don't think anyone really thought that they would go all the way with him at Royal Rumble and give him that opportunity to win at WrestleMania.
Right.
But now that they've done that and invested so much time and so much energy and so much capital into the yeeting, into the new personality, into everything, it would be madness to lose now.
Yeah, I think so too. All right, Tiffany and Charlotte. This is a hard one, and you know what? As maybe unprofessional as that promo was, it did create way more excitement for this match.
So much buzz. So, again, betting odds for this, Charlotte was a favorite a couple weeks ago. So 2 weeks ago, she was she basically had minus odds. As of yesterday, they are even. It's a pick'em, and that's why you were saying it's tough to kind of even figure out who's going to come out with this, especially after the last couple weeks. And again, betting odds are for wrestling, especially they're a small sample size of like how to really quantify how effective the story has been.
Right.
But in that light, this is probably the toughest match I've been trying to pick in my head, and ultimately, I think I did come around to Tiffy retaining. Because specifically of the last 2 weeks of her getting her get back, right? Because when Charlotte ate her up during that side-by-side promo on SmackDown, I was like, oh, Charlotte's winning this thing hands down. It's not even going to be close. She's the queen again. When Tiffy kind of fought back and the reaction that it got, where everyone's like, well, obviously it went off the rails. It got deeply, deeply personal. I think Tiffy showed something where it was just like, oh, she can hang on to this title a little bit longer. I mean, Charlotte can take it off of her at Backlash, right? They're probably going to run a lot of the shit back anyway.
Yep.
And so, but if you want to make some new stars at this Mania specifically, Tiffany's going to be one of those women moving forward, right? So like, why not do that here and give Charlotte the title back, a Backlash or SmackDown, whatever. So I'm going Tiffany.
I think if other people were in charge, I think Charlotte was probably going to win this match handily. this entire build has been utterly bizarre. And the fact that our investment is a result of what's happening in real life rather than what's happening on the shows, what they're trying to tell you.
What is happening in real life, though?
There is a conflict between those two, and it feels like it has everything to do with the real life positioning of where they're going to be after WrestleMania and beyond, and their value to the company, which makes this feel like it's a match with real winners and losers rather than like a storyline winner or loser. I feel bad for both of them for the position that they put themselves in, but I also realize that it's a very competitive business. This is the biggest show of the year, biggest show of Tiffany Stratton's life.
Yeah. You think she's going to get a little... She may have a little nerves.
Absolutely.
I mean, it would be weird if she didn't.
Yeah.
Charlotte is fiercely protecting what she believes is her earned spot. Uh-huh. And we are in a business where people go up the ladder, people go down the ladder, and when it happens, sometimes it doesn't make any sense at all.
That's interesting way to look at it. I would look at it about the heat that they were able to create. Mm-hmm. I would actually have Charlotte win, because if she wins, there is now something in Tiffany in sort of the journey to get it back. Because if Tiffany wins, like Ben said, Charlotte could just the next show all of a sudden win it back. But I think what they created was at least the perception that Charlotte is here and Tiffany is here. Mm-hmm. And so how does Tiffany get to here? They don't have that yet because Tiffany's a champion. So it's like, if you think the belt, whatever the belt means or whatever, Tiffany's here. And what does that make Charlotte? She's a Hall of Famer, whatever. Like she's the vet, she's the queen. I think if you put the belt on Charlotte, then it makes Tiffany ascent to that level higher.
That's a good way to look at it.
But who knows? Like Ben said, like the odds are they're even, so no one really knows what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Do you think that the feud with Nia Jax elevated Tiffany enough where she feels like she's a world champion / a contender to go up against Charlotte?
I think Tiffany just needs to become a better promo.
Okay.
Like, and this is maybe where we're getting at, where those real life emotions, probably did come. Because her character, even in going back to NXT, she was like the sassy brat, rich kid or whatever. And she didn't really have to promo like a babyface. Like, babyface promoing is way harder than what she was doing in NXT. Her connection with the crowd is a little bit different. And I think her promo chops, obviously, she's going to get there because I think she's very talented. But that's going to be, she still has that to go. Like the in-ring, some of, I'm sure she's not as polished as she will be, but she's crazy athletic.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
With some of the spots that she does, with her athleticism, the instincts, the movement, all of that stuff is like A+. And as she grows, she's just going to be way better at the other stuff. So, all right. So, Io, Bianca, Rhea. This is the one where I literally have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going actually an Io retain.
That's where I landed too.
Yeah, after kind of thinking it through, like I wouldn't be shocked if Bianca ended up winning, but lately they've just the build to this match has been interesting in that the amount of times they've mushed
right in the
guy's face has been kind of insulting.
At some
like
point,
the
you're
lone
like
Asian on the guard. I'm like,
yeah,
whoa, hang on.
Hey, Io, how about you block, or maybe you kind of duck?
You know it's coming. They've done it to you, both of them, every single time. But that's why I think she is going to retain, because they've made her look almost like the third wheel in this entire match, to the point where I think she's going to prove everybody wrong. Because, the odds specifically, are against her to lose this match, right? Just from you don't have to eat the pin.
Yeah.
There's two people coming at you.
Who does she pin? That's the big question.
I feel like Rhea.
No, sure.
And I think
Rhea. She could have pinned
you
Bianca.
build that because what is it like? There's that narrative that Rhea can't beat her, right? So you just use that to kind of keep that going. And maybe that, it's probably going to flip Rhea to, she's like, obviously she's always bordered on heel babyface, but she's been scaling more babyface recently. So this is maybe a way to push her back toward the other side.
at WrestleMania, Naomi was asked about Bianca and whether or if Bianca wins, that's her homie, but they have a different relationship these days.
Oh yeah.
So that was out there. She threw that out there specifically. So who knows? Maybe it was a little bit of a red herring for us to go, oh, maybe Bianca's winning.
I don't see Io pinning Rhea again because that's how she won the title.
Yep.
I see her pinning Bianca, but I also see Bianca winning this match.
Interesting.
To me, I think that Io Sky is probably the best pound-for-pound female wrestler in the WWE right now. And so putting her in a position to be the world champion and beating Bianca and Rhea is a big difference than her losing to Bayley last year as the champion in Damage Control. You are putting her at a different stratosphere in terms of how she's perceived, because beating Bianca and Rhea right now, that is a feather in your cap.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not necessarily sure that Bianca winning this match elevates her in any way more than she is now.
If it was who I want to win, I would love to see Bianca get a run. But I wanted to see Bianca and Rhea have a one-on-one match. Io's great, so there's nothing wrong with her being added to this match. But I do want to see Bianca kind of pushed as like the top star of the women.
A lot of three-way matches this year, and
so many multi-person matches.
All right, quickly, who will be Randy Orton's opponent? Predictions.
Man, I mean, I feel like we're just headed towards it's going to be Solo.
Because so that Jeremy and I were talking earlier, there are some people who are kind of out of their AEW contract and newly in WWE who are waiting to debut. It could be one of those guys.
So the one I would love to see is Rusev, right? He just rolls up in a tank. Again, he could use Shotsies for all I care. But, like, him in that tiny-ass tank. But that would be incredible. I think that would be – I don't think it's going to happen, but Shoemaker made an interesting point on Masked Man a couple weeks ago where it was the Kevin Owens announcement that he was going to be out of Mania and having his neck surgery just strangely coincided with the fact – or with the rumors and the news that Rusev was at headquarters signing his contract or whatever he was doing. So there's that. I think that would get a pop. Right?
And you also have one.
I think someone, either tonight or at Mania, should knock on Aleister Black's door.
That's the other one I was thinking too.
You know, you call back that whole somebody knock on my door for a match and I'll answer kind of thing.
Yeah.
It would be a funny callback after all this time and kind of a little reward. And then you have Randy Orton and Black out there in a match, and I think everybody who wants to see a return, everyone that wants to see a surprise, it's not Cody, but it's a big deal.
I said this, and I said it more so to the effect of, could Brock Lesnar return?
Oh, boy.
Ooh.
Right?
Oh.
Like, but if you are watching the conversations by the talent, and they are unafraid right now, it seems to me, of some of the perception. Brock Lesnar would be, that may be a little bit too much hubris for me.
Why would Randy want to take more elbows to the forehead?
Or maybe he wins.
He could, but
maybe Brock.
At this point, nothing would that would not shock me.
Yeah, that was more my thing. Like when I thought about this 2 weeks ago, I was like, but after this weekend,
you're like,
I'm like,
might as well.
It's like,
let's just really double
they
down
might
on
lean
this
all
shit.
in on all of this.
maybe they're getting us ready for it.
Yeah.
Okay, just quick NXT ones, just real quick. Vaquer, Julia, Jada, or Jordan Grace. Who you going with?
Man, I mean, I want to say Julia. I think she's. I'm still a little confused as to why they took the title off of her so quick. I mean, I know there were a bunch of rumors about her potentially being injured or not, but then she kind of came back really fast.
Yeah,
a lot faster than I think an injury would warrant, or
right.
That would warrant, kind of taking the title off her if she was injured.
Right.
So I'm probably leaning more towards her, because I don't think Stephanie's gonna retain.
You don't?
Man, I think putting it back on Julia.
I think either of those two
those are the top two for
should
me.
win.
It's either Julia or retention. But
Do you think any of those 4 are ready for the main roster?
I think Stephanie is. I think Julia probably is. From a wrestling point, she is. I love Jada. Jada's my favorite person in NXT right now. I would not bring her up yet. And Jordan Grace could.
She could.
She totally could.
Yeah.
But I would also keep her on NXT.
So they've been doing a lot of multi-person matches, and they had Vakir do 2 matches in one night and retain both of those titles. Doing all that stuff and then having a multi-man match a week later or 2 weeks later, and she loses there.
She asked for it, though.
I know, it just seems disingenuous. Like, there's something about it that it makes her look weaker as a champion to, issue a challenge that she's then going to lose as a babyface. I'm kind of leaning towards Stephanie retaining the title.
Yeah, I think either of those two would be fine, and I think you can create stories, and then you build to a one-on-one match.
Yeah,
at whatever your next. Okay, Obatrick and Javon.
Man, so I feel like Trick is going to the main roster pretty soon, so I don't think he's going to win. I think Oba's retaining because I think he's going to be the guy down there for a while. And this is how you then you can build him and Javon kind of moving forward because I do think Trick is out of there pretty soon. Yeah. So yeah, I'm going Oba, a retention.
What if the New Day wins their titles?
Yeah.
And
heavily favored to do so.
They need a heater. Oba would be perfect as a heater for the New Day, and be in the mix as a singles.
Or. It'd be funny if they did bring him up and he was their heater, and then he lost his accent just like Kofi.
Yeah. That would be funny.
Have you heard Obafemi?
I've never heard his normal.
That dude's from the South.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's when we've talked to him, he's done the interviews in character or with the accent, but if you. It's gonna be hilarious if when they bring him to the main roster, and again, that'd be a way to do it.
Yeah,
because then Kofi can teach him how to do it.
Yeah.
So, could Trick be a heater? Could he be their heater?
I think Trick needs to be brought in by somebody who I'm teaching you game. And John Cena, the babyface, would have been perfect. And John Cena, the heel, maybe not so much.
Yeah,
because he reminds me so much of John Cena, the early John Cena. But yeah, I'm so intrigued because I think Trick, if he's got the right people behind him, I think he'd be a giant star. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, if they don't protect him and they don't pay attention to him and they don't really have a great story for it, I think he could get lost in the shuffle, which would be terrible because he's got so much. The reason why Javon could win, though, is if you think this Dark Slate or whatever the story is, that whatever it's called.
State, yeah.
The GameCube title from 2008.
Yeah.
If you think that's if they're trying to really put, I guess they have a match against Tony D'Angelo's crew. If the idea is Javon is with them and then he could win.
It was his birthday yesterday. So
was it?
This dude just turned 21.
He's crazy.
By the way, to make you.
I mean,
feel
can
old.
you imagine where is a better place to turn 21, or a worse place maybe?
Vegas. Thursday
night. It's probably the best if you're not working.
Yeah.
And he has to work on Saturday.
One of our colleagues on the Fight Game podcast, the network, Paul, he mentioned Paul Fontaine. Yes, Paul Fontaine. He mentioned a long time ago that the heater that he'd wanted to see, and this is probably going to be a little divisive, and he's been de-emphasized in NXT, would have been Ridge Holland.
Ooh.
It's a weird one.
Not a fan.
But at the same time, I could see WWE wanting to do it for the heat.
I could see Vince McMahon wanting to do it, whether or not they would do it.
Yeah.
The current regime.
But Obafemi, Trick, any one of those guys feels like they could seamlessly fit in with the New Day if they wanted to go that direction.
All right. So the last question, and then we'll get out of here. Kind of stealing from your boss, Bill Simmons. Who will win the weekend? His would be more about who won the weekend, but who do you think will win the weekend? And I have one, but I'll throw out a couple just for argument's sake.
Yeah. My initial reaction is going to be Seth.
Oh.
Because I think.
So you think he's winning?
I think he's winning. I think Heyman's
we
leaving.
We didn't
with
even
him.
mention that match. But,
yeah, I think he's leaving with Heyman. And he's been eating a couple of losses as of late, like big match losses, where of the three of them specifically, I think he has the most to gain and therefore will be the biggest winner kind of when this is all said and done. Right? Because I also, obviously, if Jay walks out as champion, that's huge. If Cena walks out as champion, that's huge. But that's almost premeditated at this point, right? We're all just kind of assuming that that's what's going to happen. Yeah. The Seth thing it's almost, again, kind of the correlation between that match and the EO match. Again, the way that EO was kind of looked at as like the third wheel. Seth is sort of that in this match. He's obviously
he's been the most valuable
involved.
player for that storyline.
But he's like the biggest connecting piece between them. But again, Roman's going to get the shine because of who he is. Punk's going to get the shine because of who he is. And Seth just kind of always gets, in the discussions that you have with people, he's always gets kind of lost in the shuffle, despite being kind of one of the best in the game. So I think it's going to be him.
He's a slightly distant fourth in a current Rushmore in WWE. If you did Punk, Cody, Roman, and Seth, those are the top four. But if you immediately thought about it, you'd kind of think of Seth as like a little bit behind the others because of the way they've been positioned.
Which is nuts, honestly. Yeah.
And what you're saying feels natural because this guy from 10 years ago, has been main eventing, winning world championships at WWE. And in this whole build, he feels like the afterthought between the conflict between the other two. I lean towards Seth winning that match as well.
Interesting. I just see Punk because I think Cena Punk is a giant match to do.
You can get there without Punk winning, though. Like, he could win Money in the Bank, theoretically, and then go to SummerSlam.
Yeah, but if Seth wins, he needs to be the number one contender to something, right?
Yeah.
So,
who
do you think wins weekend?
The surprise opponent for Orton.
Interesting.
Ooh. I like
so
that
whoever
pick.
catches gets the vibes. It's
going to be
fans.
The news, like, oh, this person just showed. If they're from AEW or last in AEW, if it's a return, if it could be Nick Aldis, like it'll be somebody that people are talking about, and there's a potential that this could be like
that person also has to beat Randy Orton though in order to get what you're saying.
It's entirely possible.
And Randy Orton doesn't really take that many losses.
Would he have lost against Kevin at this match? It's possible.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's not impossible.
I'm going with the easy one. I think Jay's the winner of the whole weekend.
It's gonna be. You're right in that I think that's gonna be the first match of the night tomorrow, and the amount of yeeting that is gonna be done the rest of the weekend is gonna be insane. Like they might open night 2 with him. He might just pop up for no.
And the host of WrestleMania night 2, Jay, just to get the thing. So. I tell this story. This is not a fun or happy story for me, but WrestleMania 35 weekend. We're in Brooklyn for the NXT show. I hate that arena, by the way.
What arena?
The Brooklyn arena.
Oh,
where the Nets
play?
Yeah.
What is it, Barclays?
Yeah, Oh, God. It's like comparing that to MSG was not even close.
Yeah.
So I'm, that show was a long weekend, but I'm going to the restroom and dude with a belt over his shoulder as we're at the urinals trying to get an Adam Cole Bay chant going. And I looked at this dude and I was like, why?
Yeah.
I hope, because this thing is over, I hope we don't see people trying to get yeets going at the urinal.
Well, first of all, it's funny you bring that up, the urinal plus Adam Cole, because we just had Adam Cole on the show on Worldwide 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And he talked about the wildest autograph request he ever got was at the urinal, and he said he was at the urinal with headphones on. He was at the airport. He was at the airport. Someone tapped this man on the back.
Yes.
Midstream. And you know what I mean? Like,
no
so
self-awareness.
That's where you were going, and I was like, "Were you there, or was it you?" You know what I mean? So, but yeah, to that point, there's gonna be a lot of yeeting happening throughout the weekend, the rest of the weekend, I should say, and then for the foreseeable future, as long as he's champion, it's gonna be.
The other thing I can compare to is WrestleMania 31 weekend. Everyone and their mother was doing the Enzo and Big Cass back and forth.
Yeah.
Like they were just in full Enzo voice and like that. Like they would just almost like in a cipher. It was almost like a hip hop battle. Who could do the best Enzo and Big Cass?
I have burned into my brain from WrestleMania 31 at that NXT show and adjoining things. People just yelling "New Day" over and over and over again, and it has stuck with me all of these years.
What about
that's the cadence when I say "New Day"?
What about Ricochet's laugh? Is that over with you?
Not yet. Well, when we do our AEW reviews, you sprung that on me, and for about 3 days afterwards, I had that
I have that as a draw.
Did you see him last night?
I didn't. I assumed he was there, but I didn't see him.
I talked to him backstage. That dude is so good. He's so funny.
His wife is so talented.
She crushed last night.
She sung last night.
Yeah.
She's just so wildly talented.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Unbelievable.
All right, so we're going to wrap this up. I want to thank you, Ben.
No, thank you guys.
Where can people find all of these interviews?
Yes, the Ringer Wrestling Show feed, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts.
Did you guys also shoot it for YouTube?
We have video.
Okay.
Hopefully we'll get that up on YouTube at some point, but we do have video. We have video of all of them, full video of all of them, except Punk, because Punk was on a separate day. But you can listen to all those shows on the Ringer Wrestling Show feed. They're being rolled out. We rolled out some last night. This morning, we're rolling another episode this afternoon. And again tomorrow morning, so you'll catch all 11 interviews that we did.
There you go, man. You guys were working hard. And now you get to hopefully enjoy yourself a little bit more.
We have a meet and greet tomorrow, so if anyone who's in Vegas,
I'll be there.
Double G will be there at Tom's Watch Bar, New York Casino, 1 to 3 before night 1. We'll probably head straight to the arena right after that. So yeah, please check out the interviews that we did. And come meet and greet if you so desire.
Jeremy and I are about to head over to the Q&A. Dave and Brian are doing a meet and greet and Q&A, so we're about to head out that way. And then tomorrow night, Dave and Brian will be back on the subscriber feed on YouTube. They're doing their show tomorrow night, and then Sunday night post WrestleMania. Jeremy and I will be back tomorrow, same time, recapping kind of all the F4W events, as well as we didn't talk about Collision specifically today, but we will dig into a little bit more of what's going on in wrestling on tomorrow's show.
It was a good show, though. I give it a thumbs up.
All right, yeah, I got through like half an hour of it, so I still need a lot to watch. But otherwise, all right, we're done here. Thanks to our guest, Ben. Thanks to Jeremy. And also thanks to producer Jared for getting everything in. Of course, Tony the leader for helping us out with audio stuff. All right, we'll be back tomorrow, Jeremy and I. Thanks for listening. Peace out.
Peace.